Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly Oracle Wisdom. My name is Natalie, and we are going to have a look at what the Oracle cards have to tell us for the energy for the week ahead. Now, this is a week where we are finishing Taurus season and moving into Gemini season. Okay, so we are starting with the Law of Attraction Oracle cards, and this is by, I don't know how to pronounce this name. It's either Sishui or Sishu. I'm not quite sure, but I'll show you all the box. So there it is. I actually really like these cards. I bought a couple of decks from this person recently, and I have been a huge fan. So let me pull. And one of the things that I like about these cards is that they have a reverse side as well. And not all Oracle cards do, but I think it's nice to just change these readings up a little bit, get some different energy going on. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to pull, I was going to say two more and literally two jumped out. So, okay, we're starting with reflection. Deep introspection is needed. The answers lie in understanding your past and present. Take time to journal, meditate, or analyze patterns in your life for insight and clarity. Then we have serendipity. Unexpected blessings arrive when you are open to life surprises. Stay open to synchronicities and chance encounters today. Magic is unfolding. Then we have mindset. Your habitual thoughts create your experiences. Align your thinking with your desires. Catch negative self-talk and replace it with empowering beliefs. Shift your mental patterns. And then we have fulfillment, and this is the reverse side of fulfillment. Seeking happiness outside yourself may be leaving you empty. Turn inward for true fulfillment. And then we have another card in reverse, which is liberation. Attachment to the past may be restricting your growth. Allow yourself to move on. So right off the bat, looking at this spread, I think that this is very much a week of what we have going on internally more so than externally. I think the serendipity card is things that happen outside of ourselves, and it's how the universe, gets us to these fated points or these serendipitous moments. And so this is obviously outside of ourselves, but reflection, mindset, fulfillment, liberation, these are all things that are going on internally. So I think that it's a week where we need to reflect on what is serving us versus what isn't. I keep hearing one more. So there's going to be one more of these cards at the end of this. I think it's a week where we have to sort of look at who we are, where we've been, what patterns we are repeating in this life. And it's interesting that this is coming up because I was having a conversation with somebody earlier and we were talking about the different patterns that keep showing up for people. And so we were having the conversation in a different way, not so much about ourselves, but I was saying that when I used to go on first dates, and I get it, it's a rule that a lot of people stick to, that you should never ask about somebody's past relationships, especially that early on. I disagree with that. And one of the reasons why is I always want to hear how the person that I'm on a date with speaks about their exes. I want to hear if they are respectful. So I don't need to go into great depths. I don't want to get stuck on these past relationships. But if this person starts this whole diatribe against their ex and it's filled with vitriol and anger, that gives me an insight into who this person is and whether they're past, like whether they're over the breakup, whether they're in a good place with it, whether they're in a good place with their ex. And does that mean they have to be in contact with them? No. Do I have an issue if someone's in contact with their ex? Also no, depending on if that person is respectful of me and the relationship that I have with their ex, right? But also if somebody's sitting there and saying, you know, all of my exes are crazy, you know, I don't know why I attract these people. Well, then two things pop up for me. Are they attracted to people that aren't stable? And what is that reasoning? Or are they making these women crazy because of their behavior? Do we necessarily get all the answers? No, but do you get where I'm going? Like, it just gives insight. So for me, this whole reflection thing, I've realized these patterns of why I would have certain conversations based on reflecting how I was dealing with these first dates. But I think this goes a whole lot deeper. It's not just reflecting on patterns of the people that are around us, but it's what are our behaviors? Like, are we the one that's angry with all of our exes? Are we the one that is attracting crazies? And if we are, why are we doing that? Is it because we say we want a committed relationship, but we actually are fearful of commitment, so we pick people that will never commit to us? You know, every time we go and get a job, is everybody around us assholes? And they sort of say, if before lunch everyone you meet is an asshole, you're probably the ass. So I think this is a week, and I'm using really sort of really full-on examples, but it might be little patterns in terms of how we are in friendships. Maybe we're a pushover and we let people sort of ride all over us. But I think this is a moment of where we're able to have a breakthrough this week if we're honest in the reflections that we're having. Maybe it's reflecting in regard to the relationships that are in our lives at the moment. Maybe it's a reflection as to where we want to go. But I think it's a moment where we need to really be honest with ourselves over whatever things are playing a part. Okay, I got the last one out. So I think we have that element to this week. I think then mindset, it's about, once you've been honest with yourself, you're able to get to a place where you can go, right, I have to adjust my mindset and I need to make these cognitive changes and approaches to life. Maybe it's implementing a new schedule. So maybe what we've reflected on is, I hate the way I look and I keep complaining about it. I start exercise regimes, but I don't stick to it. Okay, so now I have to change how I'm doing this. Maybe the approach to exercise isn't working, and because, you know, maybe I'm someone who doesn't enjoy going to the gym. Okay, I have to find a different way. I have to find a way to do this that I enjoy it. Maybe I enjoy going outside and going for a walk, so I'll go and do that every day. I caught up with a friend and her husband a couple of weeks ago, and I looked at him and he was half the man in a great way that I had seen last time. And I said, how much weight have you lost? And he said, she makes me go for a walk every morning and I've lost like 100 pounds. He looks freaking amazing. So, you know, it was all about mindset and understanding what he needed to get to that point. So, and in that, is there negative self-talk? This is something that we need to get on top of. So the reflection is going to help you figure out what's going on. Mindset is, okay, I have to change this. So I think that there's a very strong element of that going on. The other thing is, and you'll pick this up in your reflection, if you are looking for other people or things outside of you to validate you and make you feel fulfilled, that's never going to work if you can't feel that when you're on your own. One of the other questions I always used to ask when I was going on dates was if they could be alone. Because if you're someone that cannot be on your own, that means you're going to be up my ass all the time. And I don't want that. I need someone that can go off and do their own thing and let me go and be my weird little self and get work done and get the things that I want to do done. And then we can come back together and we can tell each other about our days and do all these things. It's about being interdependent in a relationship where you merge your lives in a really healthy way, but you're still two individual people versus becoming a we, and you can never be separated. Fulfillment in terms of things, if there's a shopping addiction and you need to constantly be buying things to feel fulfilled in that way, because shopping addiction often is about a hole that exists in your life and needing to fill it. And so instead of being maybe codependent with someone, you're filling it with stuff. So if there is an issue where you're struggling with feeling fulfilled, this is about learning to go within and find that joy and that happiness within yourself to be able to feel fulfilled. And then everything else on top of that becomes like icing on the cake. And then there is this liberation card, which we have in reverse, which is attachment to the past, maybe restricting your growth. Allow yourself to move on. So is there something that you are attached to? So therefore you are not liberated. And I think that all of these things go hand in hand. I think it starts with the reflection and understanding where you're actually at. What things are you overly attached to? What things have we not let go of? Maybe we feel like we didn't get closure, and maybe we're never going to get closure. The interesting thing is I often find that when I let go of the idea of closure is often when closure randomly, serendipitously turns up. So this is a week where you really, really, really need to have that reflection. And maybe it comes through meditation. Maybe it comes through journaling. Maybe it comes with just sitting quietly and, having the uncomfortable thoughts and letting them come in and sitting with them, as opposed to judging yourself when you have those thoughts. And maybe it's going, you know what, I'm still attached to this ex. That's why when I'm dating, nothing's working, because I can't get over them. And I'm still attached to that. And that's one of the things that we have to let go of. I know I've had relationships that took a long time to move beyond because they messed with my head, but it was me hanging on to it. It wasn't the other person. Maybe it's liberation from a situation from your childhood that has haunted you all these years. And I understand the weight that those things carry and the burden of all of that. But we can't go back and change the past. We can't control somebody else's actions, but we can control how we respond to them. And if we allow these external things that happened in the past, and especially with people that have gone and moved on and they're doing their thing, and we allow them to hold us captive, that's on us. And that is something we do have control over. So I think this is a really big week for the internal work. And I think once we start doing the work and finding the right direction that we're meant to move in, this is where these serendipitous events will actually be able to come in, because we've created space for them to move in. And then remember I said we needed one more card from this deck. So the final card from this deck is manifestation. Your thoughts and emotions are actively shaping your reality. Focus on what you want, not what you fear. Write down your intentions in the present as if it already is true. Feel the emotion of already having it. So when you're shedding all of these things, it's an incredibly powerful moment in order to manifest. So manifest the life that you want. If you're able to recognize and be honest about the things that aren't serving you and that you don't want to be present in your life anymore, then you are in a place where you can manifest exactly what it is you do want. And this is one of those moments. And I feel like this is a week that's kind of going to offer you a portal, in a sense, to really sort of open a new chapter, to really go, okay, I'm turning the page here, and I don't want to be stuck in this place anymore. I want different things. And there are moments in time where you have to signal to the universe that you're ready. I have talked in the past about never being asked out on dates, and somebody said, you must be dating all the time. I was like, no, I never get asked out. And then when I sat with myself and was honest about what was going on, I realized that anytime anyone had asked me on a date, I had said no. And I'd said no for the right reasons. I didn't think that they and I had anything in common. But I realized that I had said no to everything the universe had put on offer. And so the next person that came along, he asked me on a date. I didn't think it would be a romantic match, and it wasn't, but he was a wonderful man. We went on a date. We had a great time. And after that, the universe started sending me a whole bunch of people to go on dates with. And, life kind of progressed from there. But I've learned that you sometimes have to signal to the universe that, hey, I am ready. And the universe will go, okay, noted. All right, I'm going to pull one more card. I've had two jump out. I'm pulling one more from the Clarifying Life Situations Oracle, which is a MahrukhX deck, because can we even do a reading without a MahrukhX deck? Okay, so the first one, sorry, I'm just trying to put this deck down. So the first card out is Hidden Secrets. Careful of superficial appearances or making decisions without all the facts. Act with discernment, unseen, sly approach, and careful. Let me just look at all three of these. So then we have Poor Choices. Think again before making any decision at this time. Caution is needed. There's a hidden problem. Warning, reconsider, and no. And then we have Prelude. You may not feel much is happening. However, the path you're on now is leading you to something great. Groundwork is the first step. Intro. Okay, so for me, I feel like something is going to be coming up this week. And so like I said just a moment ago, I think a lot of what's going on this week is internal, and it's work that we're doing on ourselves. But I feel like something might be presented, and rather than rush into it, it's a moment where you need to stop and reflect. And I don't think the cards are saying you can't do anything this week. I think this is about not rushing into something and going, okay, this looks like it's the complete opposite of where I've been, and so I'm just going to say yes. I think that, okay, I keep getting a picture of my abusive ex, and so this is what I'm going to say. I left my husband, who was a good man, but we were not meant to be together. I was just starting to come into my own as a single woman. I had never been a single adult. I had been with him since I was 15 years old. And then all of a sudden I'm 25 and I'm divorced and trying to find my way through the world. And this man came along and there were red flags. And I allowed him to explain the red flags away. And I rushed into something that was not good for me. And one of the reasons why I was a perfect candidate for him, he was a sociopathic narcissist. It's the only way I can describe him. I was in a place of wanting to change who I was and how I was moving through the world. And so I was working very heavily with a therapist, a psychotherapist, and we were doing great work. And I was so happy with all the changes I was making. I felt not that I was responsible for my marriage breaking down, but there was a part that I played. Of course, in every relationship, it takes two people to tango. But in a place where you are reflecting on where you've been and what you want to change, it leaves you vulnerable to maybe being a bit rash with those changes that you're making. So in a week where you are busy doing all this inner work and changing how you move through the world to make yourself a better place, to make yourself a better person, and make the way you move through this world better, what can happen is if the wrong person comes in and almost senses that vulnerability, they can offer things that seem amazing. And if you rush into it, it can ultimately be a bad decision. So focus on you, focus on what's going on. And if something amazing turns up and you're like, oh, this is a serendipitous event that she talked about, it could be. But this is a week where you need to take your time and make sure that there aren't hidden secrets, that there is not something that you are missing. And if you see those red flags, listen to them. Don't do what I did. Don't allow them to explain it away. Take your time. And if they are really pissed at you not moving forward with something, and this could be a business thing, it could just be a friendship thing, it could be like I keep hearing like you're going on a girls or a boys trip or something, but you're not committing to it because something doesn't feel right. They'll wait if everything's above board and it's all fine. So this is about just taking the time to make the correct decision for you. And this prelude, the reason it's a prelude or the intro is because while you're doing this work, you have to adjust to this new normal. You have to come to terms with the things that, you know, have maybe been your patterns, or maybe realizing that you hung on to something that you thought you had let go of a long time ago. And if you're clearing space and realizing that you need to free yourself of these attachments and free yourself of these external things that you've been using to validate you all this time, you know, that leaves room for a lot of change and shift and all of that. And it means that this manifestation process, it doesn't mean everything's going to show up this week. This is the beginning of you manifesting the next chapter as you want it and how you want it to present. So knowing all that, this is just the beginning. So it's just a matter of you making the right choices. So if you paid any attention to the thumbnail, we had me with my inner child and a unicorn, because why wouldn't you have that? And so we are finishing with the Inner Child Oracle, which is the Amanda Lynn Aisling deck. And I really do love this because I obviously didn't know before we started what this reading was going to be, but the fact that it's so much about internal work and growth, I think it's important that we go to the inner child. So there's two cards. The first one is Practice Freedom, Release the Weight of Judgment. And I think this is about judgment of ourselves. We are often our own harshest critics, and this is where we need to be kind to ourselves this week, because as we're having these reflections and realizing where we were holding on to things that don't serve us, we can get very critical as we sit there and go, well, why would you do this? Why are you hanging on to this? Why did you take those actions in the past? And you're still clinging to that anger at yourself or that frustration at yourself because of maybe how things played out. Maybe it's, you know, you regret speaking to someone in a particular way. Whatever it is, you need to release that judgment, because we all do the best we can with what we have in the moment. And I know there are things that if I could go back and change them, I would, but I can't. And after the abusive relationship ended, there was one friend that I had kept through this whole thing. And she was a very good friend to me, and she was very, very supportive. And I allowed him to poison my mind against her. And years later, I sent her a message and said, listen, I'm trying to get in contact with you. You clearly don't want to take my call. Is there somewhere I can send an email? And she sent me an email address. So I typed an email out, and I just tried to explain where I was in that time. And it wasn't an excuse, but I was hoping she would sort of understand the place that I was in. I never heard from her, and all I can do is acknowledge that I was in a really dark place and that I love her, and I am so grateful to her for all the things that she did, and I'll be grateful forever. However, I have to be okay with her choosing not to be my friend anymore. And that's because of my actions, and if that's how she feels, and maybe she feels no anger towards me at all. Maybe it's just, I don't want to bring that energy back into my life. And even though this happened, I don't know, 20-ish years ago or just under 20 years ago, and I'm a different person and I'm sure she's a different person, maybe that was just the journey we were meant to have in this life. And that was the karmic debt that we were paying off to each other. And that's it. I can't judge myself for it because I was hanging on by a thread. I also can't judge her because, you know, what I did was shitty in terms of allowing him to get into my mind and allow me to not trust what she was telling me. So, you know, you do the best you can with what you have. And sometimes it just is what it is. So remember to be kind to yourself. We shouldn't be judging anybody because none of us are perfect, but we absolutely should not be judging ourselves. And then the final card of this reading is pull yourself close. Every part of your being is deserving of love. And that's exactly right. Even the darkest parts of ourselves deserve love. We have all had moments that we are not proud of. We have all had moments that we wish we could go back and change. And the reality is all of those parts make up who we are today. And so make sure you are not only judgment-free, but that you are all loving and all encompassing, because you know, the human that you are today, the growth that you've had is because of some of these darker moments. Without darkness, we wouldn't have shadows and light. And without sadness, we wouldn't know how wonderful happiness is. Without tears, we wouldn't have laughter. Do you know what I mean? Like, it all balances everything out, yin and yang. And this seems to be a theme. If you watched Full Disclosure, if you're on High Vibe, if you watched that on Thursday, yin and yang, everything in this world is about balance. So don't be too hard on yourself. Make sure you're giving yourself a break and make sure you are loving yourself in its entirety. I hope this reading resonated with some of you, if not all of you. As always, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Thank you for all the love here on YouTube and on High Vibe. I'm so deeply appreciative of it all. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, just so that I know that you want these readings to keep coming, and I will see you next week.